Okay, this is video 6 for quarter 2. This is complex sentences again, but this time we're talking about the difference in punctuation when there is essential versus non-essential information. So information we must have versus information that is simply extra. Let's review really quick our 3 formulas because that'll help us as we look to punctuate correctly today. The first type of formula is dependent clause, comma, independent clause, period. If the dependent clause is first, we usually need a comma in between. If the order is reversed with the independent clause first and the dependent clause second, we usually do not need the comma. Our other is when we have the independent clause and the independent clause, but it is interrupted by the dependent clause. That's going to be mostly where we're looking at essential versus non-essential information today. And so that's what the rest of this information will give us as far as when we should use a comma and when we should not. So, a general guideline, and look back at this as you're working, we do not use commas if the information in the dependent clause is necessary or essential to identifying the information in the independent clause. So no commas if there is essential information. We normally do use commas if the information in the dependent clause is simply additional and not necessary or non-essential. Okay, here are some examples. All right. The professor who teaches Chemistry 101 is an excellent lecturer. Here is my dependent clause in the middle of my independent clause. In this case, we don't know who all we have is the professor, so the identifying information is the one who teaches Chemistry 101. So it is essential information, and we don't have any commas. If I do it this way, though, Professor Wilson, who teaches Chemistry 101, is an excellent lecturer. This is non-essential information because I've already identified him by his name. So it's just additional information. And we've got the commas. Second example, people who were born on December 25th must celebrate their birthdays on Christmas Day. Here's my dependent clause. Who were born on December 25th. It's talking about which people must celebrate their birthdays on Christmas Day, and that's essential information. Otherwise, all I've got is people must celebrate their birthdays on Christmas Day. It doesn't make any sense. So no comma is necessary. In this case, I'm identifying somebody. My father, who was born on December 25th, must celebrate his birthday on Christmas Day. In this case, the who was born on December 25th is additional information because I've identified him, my father. So the information in the commas is non-essential because it's more additional information about father. Let's do the first 3. Hawaii, which consists of 8 principal islands, is a favorite vacation spot. So first thing I'm going to do is identify my dependent clause and my independent clause. In this case, I've got independent clause, dependent clause, independent clause. My dependent clause is interrupting. It is this, which consists of 8 principal islands. This is information telling me about Hawaii. In this case, because I've already identified Hawaii is a favorite vacation spot, I think this is just additional information, which we don't necessarily need, and so I'm going to add the commas in. So in this case, I've got this. I met a woman who works at the university. I'm going to look for my subordinate clause or my relative pronoun first. In this case, it's right here. It's who works at the university. I met a woman who works at the university. This looks like essential information to me. Otherwise, we've just met a woman. Plus, my independent clause is first, and my dependent clause is second, so I normally have no comma. So I'm going to leave it as is, no comma. I've got independent clause, dependent clause. Mrs. Smith, who is a retired teacher, does volunteer work at the hospital. I'm again going to look for my subordinate clause or relative pronoun so that I can know where my dependent clause is. Okay, here's my subordinate pronoun, or excuse me, my relative pronoun. Who is a retired teacher? That's the phrase, that's the dependent clause, and it's interrupting my independent clause, so I know I've got this. Now we just have to figure out if this is essential or non-essential information. In this case, she's identified by name, Mrs. Smith, so this is just additional information about her. In that case, I would add the commas. So I would again have this. Why don't you see if you can get to about 8 or 9? And if you've got questions, we'll do them together in class, and we'll work on a few more together in class.